What was one of the best things you learned from Lucille Ball?
Well, she
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't say, "Hi, guys."
Okay.
She was more like
she was
the guys.
she was
Right.
like she was ready to be a bitch.
Oh, now here's the story.
This episode is brought to you by Theraflu.
Hey, how you doing?
Hi, Craig. I am
How about
teary. I'm excited. I'm honored because we have one of my heroines here with us today, and we're just going to get right into it. I want you to introduce our next guest.
Yeah, we have Carol Burnett here, and
wow,
I'm speechless already, and we just got started.
You're not the only one. I am speechless, and as I said before, I'm gobsmacked. I'm so happy to be here and to meet you and to see you again.
Yes.
We are happy to have you.
Thank you.
And just so our audience can understand why Misha and I are so awestruck, excited, whatever words, it's because you were such a big part of our growing up.
Wow.
So I want to tell you the story.
Okay.
When we were kids, school age, we could only watch 1 hour of TV a day.
Wow.
Yes, my parents were ahead of the curve. And we, like you, were cartoon fans. So we spent our hour on cartoons, and my sister spent her hour on the Brady Bunch and things of that nature. But in the evenings, when you were on, my parents watched the Carol Burnett Show.
Oh, wow.
And I just want to tell you, one of the things that I really was awestruck about your show, and I didn't understand it because, again, I was I was like 10 years old. I can't even remember how old I was. When you would come out at the beginning of the show and take questions from people, my 10-year-old brain was like, this woman is the smartest, funniest woman I've ever seen because she doesn't know what these people are going to ask. So that was one thing. But it always struck me that every now and then there was a kid who'd ask you a question, and you were the kindest person to children. And being a child and seeing that, I'm getting choked up just talking about it.
Thank you.
It really meant a lot. And we were just talking. We wish our mom was here. She would have loved to have been here for this.
She was your biggest fan.
You told me that the first time.
Yeah.
And I think I sent some videos and all, and I got the loveliest letter from you.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the Q&A, I didn't want to do it.
Really?
No.
Yeah,
when
I
we
bet.
were going to do our show.
That feels risky.
Yeah. The producer came to me. He said, you know, Carol, before you get into the sketches with you black out your teeth and you have a fright wig on and a fat suit and all that, people should really get to know you first. And so to go out, you know, I said, but what if they ask? What if they don't want to ask me anything, or what if they do and I don't have a snappy answer? And he said, well, so we'll put some plants in the audience. And then I thought, no, it's got to be real.
It was real.
If they stump me with something and I have egg on my face, at least they know we're being honest.
Right.
And so I said, let's try it for 3 weeks in a row when we were just going to start. And if it doesn't work, let's tank the idea. Well, the first show, I was a little nervous, and some kind person said, who's the guest tonight? And I went, well, I can answer that. You know, and then the next week, and pretty soon, I started to have fun with it.
You were enjoying it.
And it became one of the most fun things on my show that I love.
Yeah.
I love doing. And we had one woman on, raised her hand. I called on her. She looked like B. Arthur when B. Arthur did Maude.
Oh, yes.
You know, she said, I want to come up and sing.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay,
all right.
On. You know, and she, fearless, she got up there. What's your name? And I remember to this, Terry McCann. I said, okay, Terry. Now, we had a band over on the 28-piece orchestra.
Oh, wow.
And I said, what do you want to do? And she looked at the band and she said, You made me love you in the key of G.
Whoa.
Whoa. Well, of course, the audience was going crazy. She started singing, and she was pretty good. You know, she was going, you made me love. And I joined her because I knew the song. Now we're belting away, and we were pretty good. And the audience is clapping, and we were coming to the end. And I had a different thought in my mind about the way to end the song from what she had. And we were doing, and then it kind of started to peter out. And she looked at me and she said, you screwed it up. It was gold.
That's great.
It was, and it's you can YouTube it.
Oh, you can?
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to look that
Carol
up.
and the lady who sings whatever.
We're doing. Well, let's start at the beginning because I want our listeners to know your journey. Where'd you grow up? We're in our studios in LA, and I understand that you grew up not too far from here. I was
born in Texas, and we moved out here to be with my mother, who had come out before. I was my grandmother.
Right.
I was 7.
Okay.
You know, and we moved into one room in a building on Yucca and Wilcox.
Right near the Hollywood sign.
That's right. I used to climb the sign.
Wow. Literally, the letters.
Literally.
How old were you when you were doing that?
11.
Who took you up there? Did you just wander up there?
No, the neighborhood kids. We'd be roller skating or flying kites or something. Say, I'm bored. Let's go climb the sign.
Wow.
The O's were my favorite.
Yeah.
For some reason, the scaffolding, and it was rickety. And oh my God, we got splinters. And it's a wonder we didn't break our necks. But I just loved climbing. Then I would hang over the O and look at Hollywood. You know, it was just.
What was it like back then? What was
there was no smog.
Yeah.
At all. It was clear every day. And when I'd come out from the building, the first thing I saw was the Hollywood sign up there, you know. And then I went to school here at Selma Avenue School and LeConte Junior High and Hollywood High.
Okay.
Yeah. And I lived with my grandmother. We had one room. Mama had a room down the hall. And my grandmother, it was a Murphy pull-down bed, so she would sleep in that, and I slept on the couch.
And you, so you lived with your grandmother in San Antonio.
Yes.
And your mom moved out here before you.
Right. She came out with my dad, and then they got divorced.
Okay. But did she move out here for acting, or did she move out here?
She wanted to be a writer.
Okay.
Like Luella Parsons and Hedda Hopper. Yeah. She wanted to interview movie stars for magazines.
Okay.
She was successful a little bit, freelancing.
Okay.
You know, so she did get to interview Bob Hope, Rita Hayworth.
That's big stuff.
Yeah.
So she sold a few, but unfortunately, she got the disease. She became an alcoholic. And my dad was already an alcoholic.
Okay.
Yeah. And my grandmother, she was a hypochondriacal Christian Scientist.
Wow. Okay. So what was that like?
That's a mouthful.
She would say, I'm going to know the truth. Everything's fine. There is no sickness, no nothing or other. Oh, my God. Give me a phenobarbital. So,
who was the funny one of the adults in your life? Or
my
was
mother
there
had
one?
a great sense of humor. Great, and Nanny could be funny, my grandmother, but sometimes she didn't know she was.
I'd say she wasn't trying.
Yeah, right.
What did you want to be?
A journalist.
Okay, even through high school.
I was editor of my junior high school paper and editor of the Hollywood High.
What were you reporting on? What was one of your big stories?
Well, I actually, at Hollywood High, I went to Mr. Thorpe, our teacher, and he was an uptight old guy. And
he was probably 30.
Yeah, right. And he was very pulled together, you know. And I said, Mr. Thorpe, I have an idea. Do you know the movie star Joel McCrea, who was a big movie star in the 30s and 40s and 50s?
So I watch TCM. My sister does not. I know who Joel McCrea is.
Okay. I know who Joel McCrea is.
Right.
He went to Hollywood High. So I said, let me interview Joel McCrea. And he said, well, okay, do it on your own. So I got a hold of the studio where he had an office. And I called and I said, I'm editor of the Hollywood High School newspaper, and I would love to interview
Yeah.
a lot of but they thought it was a cute idea. So they, okay.
Wow.
He said, all right. And I took the bus and everything and got to the studio. They took me to his office. He was leaned back and he had cowboy boots on and his boots were up on the table and a cowboy hat. And, I was what, 15, 16.
Wow.
And I said, how did you get your start?
Yeah.
Really dumb question. And he couldn't have been sweeter.
Wow.
And so it's there. And headlines in the Hollywood High School News.
Of course.
Interviewing Joel McCrea.
Oh.
What was your personality like? Were you always outgoing? Because, just to even come up with the idea and have the gumption to get on the bus and go down to the studio, you must have been a spitfire.
And you know what? I think it was the movies, because Nanny and I, we saved our pennies, and we would see maybe 6 movies a week.
Wow.
With second feature. So it was like my ticket would be a dime, and hers would be a quarter. And we'd get in before 1 o'clock or whatever, before the prices would change. But the movies were my escape.
Okay.
I was very quiet, and I was a good student. And so, but I would see Mickey and Judy up there, and they wanted to put on a show, and by golly, they did. I would see Rosalind Russell, that's who I pretended I was when I was going to interview Joel McCrea, because I saw her in His Girl Friday.
Yeah.
So I could assume that, and so I thought, gee, I'll be a journalist. That's what Mama, interviewing people, and so. I wanted desperately to go to UCLA.
Okay.
And we didn't have the money. Our rent was $30 a month, $1 a day. And I remember when they raised it to that, Nanny had a fit. $1 a day just to live in the... Anyway. So I knew I was going to get to go.
You knew in your heart.
And I saw myself on campus. It wasn't like I wished it.
Yeah.
I just said, it's going to happen. And Nanny said, we don't have you go to a secretarial school, do that, and then nab the boss. I said, I know I'm going to get to go. Now,
what do they call that nowadays, young people? Self-actualization or what? The young people call it something.
I don't know.
Manifestation.
Well, I
do you
guess
know
that's what I was doing.
Now? That's a thing.
Well, this was 80 years ago or more. Something like that. No, I was, no.
You manifested
I was
it.
17 or 18. Now, that was 1951, 52.
Okay.
Guess what the tuition was at UCLA?
Don't. You're just going to stab me in my stomach.
I know.
It was like, what, $500?
43.
Oh.
For the year?
For the year? Wow.
They didn't have, it was like, USC was very expensive. But UCLA was. But we didn't have it. So our room faced the lobby of the building we lived in. And then right across, there was a desk for the manager. And then there were pigeonhole mailboxes for each room, apartment.
Like slots.
Yeah, so in the morning, because I was right there, I'd peek out and see if we had any mail. And this one morning, there was this letter in our slot. So I ran out, I was in my robe, came back in to the room. The letter had my name typewritten, address. There was a 3-cent stamp on it.
Okay.
Not canceled, though. They hadn't mailed it. Somebody put it in there. I opened it up, and there was a $50 bill.
Wow.
And to this day, I do not know where that came from.
No way.
Wow.
Who do you think it was? Was it Grana? Was it Nana?
Oh, she was our Are you kidding?
I'm
she
not
wanted me to go to secretarial
right,
school.
and nab a husband. She's like, I'm not spending $50
I want to know who that was.
So do I.
Wow.
I do not know.
That covered
the people in the neighborhood, we were all poor.
Right.
Yeah.
We were on what they called it was like the WPA, but it was called relief.
Yeah. Yeah.
In California.
Like welfare, yeah.
And so, and I showed this to Danny. She said, that's a rent money. We could pay. I said, I'm going to UCLA. So I got to UCLA.
Okay.
And I wanted to major in journalism. There was no major in journalism. I could take a course and join the Daily Bruin newspaper, but there was no major.
Yeah.
What am I going to major in? So I looked at the catalog, and there was theater arts, which had different sections: theater arts film, theater arts theater, theater arts writing, theater arts English. So I thought, I'll take theater arts English and take playwriting courses, join the Daily Bruin, and just, well, when you're a freshman in theater arts, no matter which one you pick to choose to major in, you had to take an acting course. You had to take scenery building.
Okay.
You had to take costuming.
Okay.
Yeah, and so now I'm in this acting course. Oh, God. And all these kids, they were doing scenes. I was late in getting to the class because I hadn't known about this particular major. So I was they'd already been there maybe 2 weeks. So they were doing final scenes for the teacher, and they were fabulous.
Yeah.
I teamed up with a fellow student, and he picked a scene from Noel Coward's, I can't remember the name of it, where we sang a little bit.
Okay.
And I pretended, because I love the movies, to be Betty Grable with a Cockney accent.
Oh.
And I became her.
Wow.
And we got an A. And then I got into a student one act, and I played a hillbilly woman. So I went back to my great-grandmother in Arkansas and thought about her. And I remember I had a line where I came in and you had to be there, but I said, I'm back, like that. And the place exploded. They laughed. And I thought, this is what I wanted to do.
Oh, this is it.
An accident because they didn't have a school of major in journalism.
Wow.
Hey, folks, now that the basketball season has started, I've been on the road a lot lately, spending time connecting with coaches as they start the season. It's been no secret that this past year, I've been staying in Airbnbs whenever possible. These visits have been so satisfying that my time on the road feels less like travel and more like home. One thing that has been my absolute favorite is having access to a full kitchen. I have been doing more cooking on the road than at home, preparing breakfast, healthy snack options for the day, and even throwing together a quick dinner if I can't find good dinner options. And on my trip, it hit me. My own home is just sitting empty while I'm away. And someone else could be getting that same comfort in my space while I make a little extra cash on the side. That's the part I never really thought about. Hosting isn't some big job. It's simply giving people the chance to enjoy a meaningful trip while your place works for you. And if you live somewhere people dream about visiting, there are travelers like me looking for a place that feels like home. And your home might be worth more than you think. Find out at airbnb.com/host. This episode of IMO is brought to you by Theraflu. Theraflu, makers of fast-acting cold and flu relief, believes everyone deserves the right to rest and recover when they're sick, no matter where they live or how much money they make. As part of our partnership with Theraflu, we've been asking for listener stories about what it's like to balance caregiving and taking time off when you're sick. And it's been eye-opening to hear about the struggle that caregivers in particular have when it comes to choosing between taking time off when sick and putting food on the table. The health policy organization KFF reported that about half of working parents lose pay when they miss work to care for sick kids. In 2021, Theraflu launched the Rest and Recover Fund, and they've committed more than $1 million to provide micro grants to families and individuals, helping offset the cost of taking a sick day for those who don't have coverage. Learn more or help someone apply for the fund at theraflu.com/right to recover. This episode of IMO is brought to you in part by Acorns. Back when I was coaching basketball, I saw firsthand how powerful consistency can be. With Acorns, it's the same play. Show up, stay steady, and let time do the rest. Acorns is a financial wellness app that makes it easy to start saving and investing for your future. You don't need to be rich. Acorns lets you get started with the spare money you've got right now, even if all you've got is spare change. You don't need to be an expert. Acorns recommends a diversified portfolio that can help you weather all the market's ups and downs. You just need to stick with it, and Acorns makes that easy. Acorns automatically invests your money, giving it a chance to grow with time. This reminds me of the consistent steps it took for me to go from a player into the business world and back into coaching. Sign up now and join over 14 million all-time customers who have already saved and invested over $25 billion with Acorns. Plus, Acorns will boost your new account with a $20 bonus investment. Offer only available at acorns.com/IMO. That's acorns.com/IMO to get your $20 bonus investment today. From Acorns, mighty oaks do grow. Investing doesn't have to be complicated. Acorns makes it easy to invest for your future, plan for tomorrow, and spend smarter today. Paid non-client endorsement compensation provides incentive to positively promote Acorns. Investing involves risk. Acorns Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. View important disclosures at acorns.com/IMO. So you have your epiphany of this laughter makes me feel really good. This is something I want to do. And you end up now going to New York to try and chase your dream of being...
With some boyfriend.
Not then.
Okay.
He came later.
Okay.
Yeah,
He
but
followed.
what happened was one guy came up, he said, can you sing? Can you carry a tune? I said, yeah, we used to sing in the kitchen with my grandmother, mother. And he said, well, we're doing a scene in the musical comedy workshop from South Pacific. And would you be in the chorus of one of the girls who sings, I'm going to wash that man right out of my hair? Okay, so, okay. Now, I've never done it before, but I started belting.
Really?
And I'd never belted, but I was with all these other girls, so I had courage. He said, you're too loud. He said, but I'd like you to do a scene with one of our guys from Guys and Dolls where you would sing Adelaide's Lament, which is a very funny solo that this character has. And in it, in the song, she has a cold. So she's sneezing and sniffling. And I thought, I can do that because I don't have to sound pretty. And I did it and it was good. And I won an award as the most outstanding newcomer in the theater arts department.
Wow.
And I thought, I want to go to New York and be on Broadway in musical comedy.
Had you been learning throughout this major about the stepping stones in that career? So you knew that New York was the place to be?
Yeah, because I didn't look like Marilyn Monroe. I didn't look like even Tony Curtis. So,
you're like, the movies? No.
Broadway. Broadway. And again, I knew I was going to get to go.
Manifestation, young people.
And so in the musical comedy department, our professor said, there were 9 of us. We're going to a party next Saturday night in San Diego.
Okay.
And it's a black tie formal affair. Why don't you kids come down and do your scenes as the entertainment for the party, and I'll grade you.
Okay.
Okay, so all of us got in cars and went down.
Uh-huh.
And with my boyfriend, I did a scene from Annie, Get Your Gun.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, so afterwards, I'm at the hors d'oeuvres table, and I have a napkin, and I'm stealing hors d'oeuvres and I have to take home to Nanny to put in my you know, and
so she can know that $50 was worth something. Right.
And I thought, oh, this is oh my God, I'm busted. And it turned around and there was this gentleman and his wife, black tie, beautiful gown. She had, we liked you very, what do you want to do with your life? I said, someday I want to go to New York. And he said, well, why aren't you there now? I said, well, I'm hoping to get the chance to go someday, but I'm working. And I had a part-time job. And he said, I'll lend you the money.
Wow. It's another.
And he gave me his card. And I thought that it was the champagne talking.
It's like he's going to forget about this in the morning.
Said, no, he means it. He gave me his card. He said, be in my office a week from Monday, 9 o'clock.
Who was he? What did he do?
What happened was, Don and I went down. He was a very wealthy businessman. Went into his office. He said, okay, I'm going to lend each one of you $1,000. And payable, if you can, pay it back in 5 years. Wow. Stipulations. You must use the money to go to New York.
Okay.
You must never reveal my name.
Okay.
And if you are successful, you must help others out.
Wow.
And he wasn't in show business?
No. What happened was I found out later that he had helped somebody get started in a restaurant.
Okay.
He just identified talent.
Somebody staked him to a claim.
Okay.
At one point. And it was like paying it forward.
Yeah. Yep. I got you.
Well, when I got home and showed Nanny all this money, I thought she was going to have a heart attack. You can't go to New York. You can't. I have to. I bought a ticket. Now, here's how stupid I was.
Well,
I didn't know where I was going to stay.
You just went. You literally
got on a plane.
You were the typical yokel off the bus. Was it a bus ticket?
It was a plane ticket.
Okay, on a plane
ticket.
Had you ever flown before?
Nope.
Wow.
So now I'm on a plane. I was reading the New Yorker, and there was an ad for the Algonquin Hotel, which all the witty people would gather and exchange. And I thought, well, that's it. Interesting. So it was raining, and I love rain when it's good, not torrential. And I walked with my cardboard suitcase to the Algonquin, checked in, $9, they said, a day. I thought for a week, no, $9 a day. I thought, oh my God, Anyway.
But you're loaded.
Oh, yeah. Well, I had left maybe about $500 because of the plane. So I got up to the room, and I thought, what am I going to do? I had one phone number. It was from a girl who had been in the South Pacific scene. She was a year ahead of me. And she wrote everybody, said, I'm in New York, so if you're ever here, give me a call. So I called her that morning, and I said, it's Carol Burnett. She said, hi, you're here. I said, yeah, where are you? I said, I'm at the Algonquin. What? She said, get out of there and come over to where I am. Where is, so I checked out, and I had her address. Bing bong. It was a townhouse.
What part of New York was?
It was West 54th Street between 5th and 6th. It was a place called the Rehearsal Club. It housed young women who wanted to be in show business. It was very proper. Had a house mother. They had rules. There was one cot available. And I was introduced to the house mother. And she said, okay, you can come in here. You can be... And it's $18 a week, room and board. It was a godsend.
You had so many angels, I
call him Clarence.
Yeah.
It's a Wonderful Life. I said, there's Clarence.
There he is.
Yeah.
Were you ever afraid? I mean, in this process? I mean...
I was too stupid.
But
It was the movies.
Yeah.
Again,
okay.
Mickey and Judy, I'm going to put on a show. I'm going to be a
Right.
And also, when I was going to leave UCLA, some friends gave me a party. And they said, what are you going to do when you get to New York? I said, I'm going to be on Broadway, and it's going to be directed by George Abbott. And George Abbott was Mr. Broadway. He directed The Pajama Game, Damn Yankees, all of that. And that happened.
And this is another one of those you saw yourself already.
I just said, I was bragging. I said,
okay. This wasn't one of your manifestations.
I got a few jobs.
No, but it was. Yeah.
But I finally then got a call to audition for George Abbott. And it was Once Upon a Mattress.
Wow.
But that was 5 years later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you have to get an agent at the time? I mean,
get an agent?
I know. Yeah, it's like, how do you come from nowhere with a cardboard suitcase and even sort of begin? How did you know what to do?
Well, you try to get into an agent's office and you couldn't get past the receptionist.
Right.
Yeah.
They would throw your 8x10 glossy into the wastebasket.
But you knew to get headshots. You did all that?
Because I learned that from the girls.
Okay. So you were in your own little Broadway school.
So finally, I did get a meeting with an agent. And I showed him my scrapbook from UCLA, reviews. And he said, that's nice. Well, let me know when you're in something. I said, how do I get in something if I don't have an agent?
Right.
And he said, go put on your own show. I went back to the club, called a meeting with all the girls. I said, we're going to put on a show.
Spanky, we're putting on a show.
And how?
Some of the older girls went, great. But there were about 20 of us. And we wrote and came up with the idea to how to do it. And we showed the first act to the rich ladies who sponsored the club. They gave us $200 to rent the Carl Fisher Concert Hall on a certain night. We sent out penny postcards to every agent, director, producer in town saying, you're always saying, let us know when you're in something. Well, we're in something.
This is it now.
And this is your ticket. And these are the 2 nights we're performing. So please come and see us. We were packed.
How many seats in the theater?
Carl Fisher, maybe 200, maybe.
Wow.
How long did it take you all to
from the time you landed in New York to the time that you put on this show?
Oh, okay. That was 54. We put on the show in 55.
So within a year, you figured out New York.
The movies. Again, Mickey and Judy go put on a show.
Right. So what was the play?
Premise?
Yeah, was it a comedy? Was it a musical?
What happened was everybody was going to get to do their own thing.
Okay.
Like one of my roommates, Tinker was her name. She was British, really cute, and kind of bouncy and bubbly. Was for some unknown reason into Spanish dancing.
Okay, yeah.
She had her castanets.
Yeah.
I'm off now, toodaloo. And another one was a ballerina. Another one was a soprano. So what we did was the first act was everybody sitting around in the parlors, supposedly, singing, it's a lazy afternoon. Nobody can get an agent. It's just terrible. And they're singing.
Did you write the music?
No, Lazy Afternoon was from a show.
You took it.
Got it. So then I burst in, all bubbly, and saying, I love New York. And I'm singing this, there's a major song like that. And I said, come on, guys, I know what, let's put on a show.
Nice.
And then we all sang a little thing about that. Second act was the show.
Wow.
So Tinker got to do her Spanish dancing. Yeah, Sally got to sing a song.
Brilliant.
What did you do?
There was a Broadway show called New Faces of 1952. And one of the songs in it was Eartha Kitt. And she was very sexy.
Oh, yes.
And she sang a song called Monotonous. And the premise of that song was, I'm so gorgeous. I am so sexy. Everybody wants me. And it is so monotonous, And she had these chaise lounges, and she went from one chaise lounge to the other.
Very cat-like.
Slick around.
She would,
yeah, like a lion or a tiger. And it's all monotonous. So what I thought I would do would be to be in curlers and an apron and fuzzy slippers and 3 broken down kitchen chairs, singing about how gorgeous I am. And it worked.
Oh man. Yeah. So did you naturally lean into comedy? Did you think, because, Tinker's seriously doing Spanish dancing and somebody's on point.
Yeah.
You decide, I'm gonna go for the laugh.
Because I remember the laughter at UCLA.
Okay.
And then I could sing, so I could do both.
Yeah.
So out of that, 3 of us got jobs.
Wow.
Just from that. So you were able to get an agent from that.
I got an agent,
got a job.
and I got summer stock. And then I worked with a special material writer. And then I got to play, I had an act written.
Okay.
Like a one-woman act?
Yeah. And I worked at the Blue Angel nightclub. And then the special material writer, Ken Welch, wrote a song called I Made a Fool of Myself Over John Foster Dulles. It was at the height of Elvis Presley. So it was very funny for this young girl to have the hots for John Foster Dulles because he was aptly named. He wore the hat, and he was he's a Secretary of State. And so I did it on the Jack Parr Show. I did it on the Ed Sullivan Show. And so
you just took this act, took you, it was so impactful.
What was funny too was after I'd done it on Sullivan, I did it on the Blue Angel, Mr. Dulles was on Meet the Press. And they were talking about what's going on in the world. And the very last thing, they said, what is this between you and that young girl? And I'm watching the show. I go, oh my goodness, why? And he said, I make it a policy never to discuss matters of the heart in public. So he had a sense of humor.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh,
so you were in the zeitgeist of news. You were.
Yeah, and it wasn't just the entertainment session.
Yeah.
They wrote about it in the editorial department.
Wow.
I'm wondering if I was a Republican or a Democrat. Who is this?
Did your mom and Nana hear about this? Was that when they were like, okay, maybe she's on to something.
Yeah.
So now when did you parlay that success into television, Hollywood, your own show?
Well, I got a chance. I was in Mattress, Once Upon a Mattress, and then there was a wonderful man named Gary Moore, who had a major variety show at the time.
Okay.
And he knew my work. And his show was a big hit. It was, and one of the guests that one week was Martha Ray, who was a very funny, marvelous comedian. And she got bronchitis. And Gary called me on a Sunday, and his show was going on a Tuesday. He said, Martha can't make it. Can you come and learn her stuff and be on Tuesday night with us? I said, I was over there like Roadrunner. I mean, can I? Yeah. So I learned everything and did the show. And Gary, before it went off the air, he told the audience what happened and brought me out on stage. He was so kind. And so as a result, the following September, he asked me if I'd be on every week.
Wow.
So now I'm doubling with Once Upon a Mattress and the Gary Moore Show. So things are popping.
Wow.
Really. And my God, I was making money.
So I was going to ask about that. Your lifestyle, no longer in the women's boarding.
No. And so then it was just, I did Gary's show. And then CBS signed me to a 10-year contract where I would do a special a year and 2 guest shots on some of their sitcoms. But the agent, unbelievable. Within the 5 years, he had it in the contract that if I wanted to do an hour-long comedy variety show, all I have to do is push the button, and they would have to give me 30 shows.
What? Wow.
I mean, that was unheard of.
Yeah.
And they said, I didn't even think about it. I just said, who wants to be on? That's not me. I want to be on Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
I want to, So I totally forgot about it. And then I did another Broadway show, and it was not a happy experience. I had a problem with it. I got married.
Mm.
I had my daughter, Carrie.
Okay.
And I was as cold as yesterday's mashed potatoes.
Professionally, you were. Okay, so the heat is off now.
Yeah. So we said, let's move to California, go back to California. And we put a down payment on a house in Beverly Hills.
But wait, did you sign the 10-year contract yet?
Oh, yeah.
So you were in within
it was there.
Yeah, okay.
But
you weren't thinking about it.
Yeah, and now we go, oh, God, we got this house. Actually, it turned out to be a house Betty Grable lived in, which is kind of funny.
Wow.
And so we said, what do we got? And then we said, that contract. We had a week to go before the.
So you needed to pay for the house. So it's like, okay, let's activate this.
Yeah. And it was between Christmas and New Year's. And New Year's, it would have been over the 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I picked up the phone and I called the vice president in New York. And, hi, Carol, have a nice Christmas. Yeah. Mike, I'm calling because I want to push that button.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't remember it. He said, what button?
Uh-huh.
I said, the one where I get 30 one-hour shows. Let me get back to
Let me get the lawyers on this.
That was it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he called the next day.
And they were like, nope, she's got you.
They said, he called back. He said, yeah, I see that, Carol, but comedy variety is a man's game. It's not for you gals. Boo.
Boo, yeah, boo.
So he said, it's Sid Caesar, it's Milton Berle, now it's Dean Martin.
Mm-hmm.
He said, we've got this great sitcom we'd love you to do called Here's Agnes. Get your picture of it.
Yeah, really.
Here's Agnes.
They're not making Agneses anymore.
I always wonder what would have happened. I said, I don't want to be Agnes. I don't want to be the same person every week. I want to do what I did on the Gary Moore Show.
Yeah.
Different people.
Yeah.
And also in doing Gary's show, I realized I really didn't want to be on Broadway all the time because you do the same thing
over
night after night after night after night. Whereas with a comedy variety show, you do that. Then next week you got another challenge.
Mm-hmm.
You have different songs you can do, different sketches.
Can I ask, Carol, just to kind of fill in the blanks of support that you had, who your mentors were? I mean, and what was it like being a woman in the business at that time?
Well,
and even before you got to Hollywood and before you pushed that button, I mean, what were the challenges of being a woman in the business at the time?
Gary was very supportive, Gary Moore.
Mm-hmm.
So I never had a problem there. He was the kindest. And we had another second banana, which they call us, on the show named Durward Kirby. So he was the guy.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the gal. And there would be times we would be reading the script for that week.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd have a joke or something. He'd say, you know what? Give this line to Carol or Durward. They can say it funnier than I can.
Mm-hmm.
That's who he was.
January always feels like that moment to hit reset, to finally stop saying maybe one day and actually start becoming who you're meant to be. And that's why I love Shopify. If you've got a dream, whether it's a side hustle you've been sitting on or something bigger, Shopify makes that first step simple. So let me ask you, what's the one thing you've always wanted to build but kept putting off? And how different could your year look if you just started now? If 2026 is your year, go to shopify.com/IMO and make your move.
But you never had an issue as a woman, or did you?
I think it was my fault.
What do you mean?
Because in that era, the Betty Crocker era.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Okay, if a sketch wasn't working for Jackie Gleason or Sid Caesar, they'd call the writer. You guys, this sucks. Get over here.
Yeah.
If I did it as a woman in that time, I would be considered a bitch.
Yep.
So what I would do would be, if a sketch wasn't working and we're in the rehearsal hall, I'd call the writers. I said, "Oh, guys, I'm having a little difficulty with it. Can you come down and help me out?"
Yeah, just like, I'm just so helpless. I can't tie my shoe.
Sure, they'd come down and everything would be hunky dory. But now it's so much better. I mean, it's not all great. But now you've got Tina Fey, you've got Amy Poehler, you've got Kristen Wiig, you've got all these people who have their own production company who are doing it. Now, the other one you asked about a mentor was Lucy.
Yeah.
She was my pal.
When did you meet her? At what time in your life did you meet?
When I was doing Once Upon a Mattress.
So you were still on Broadway.
I was on Broadway. And she came to see the second night. I was more nervous than I was opening night with all the critics.
Yeah.
I peeked through the curtain and I saw this orange hair in the second row. I went, "Oh, it's Lucy." And so after the show, we were in this off-Broadway theater, and it was pretty funky. And my dressing room, it had a coil curling up from the couch. So she knocks on the door, and I open the door. She said, "Hi, you kid." She was 22 years older, so I'm kid.
Yeah.
She starts to walk. I said, "Oh, look out." She says, "I see it." And she sat down. It was like 20 minutes and got up. She said, "Kid, if you ever need me for anything, you call me." So like 3 years later, I had a special I was doing for NBC. And they said, "Okay, we'll give you but you got to have a major guest star." So the producer said, "Call Lucy." I said, "I don't want to bother you."
Yeah. And you hadn't been in contact with her, right?
And he said, "Give her a call. She can do this. I'd love to, but I'm busy." So I got her on the phone. She said, "Hey, kid, you're doing great. What's happening?" And I blubbered about it. "Oh, Lucy, I'm doing this." And she interrupted me. And she said, "When do you want me?"
Wow.
So we did it. And Zero Mostel was the other guest. It was just those two. And we had the best time.
What was one of the best things you learned from Lucille Ball?
Well, she wouldn't say, "Hi, guys." Okay. She was more like the guys.
She was like, she was ready to be a bitch.
Now here's the story.
Okay.
She was a guest on my show, and we were had a dinner break. So we went across the street to a restaurant from CBS. She's knocking back a whiskey sour. She says, "Kid, you're doing really great, and it's great that Joe, my husband Joe, was producing the show. He was also a producer of the Gary Moore Show. So he ran the show." And she said, "That's great. You got Joe to be running, and you don't have." Because when I was married to the Cuban, she said, "Desi did everything.
Yeah,
he invented the 3-camera system. He said, put them on wheels so they can move around." It was Desi. He took care of the costumes. He took care of the scripts so that," she said, "all I had to do on a Monday is come in and be silly Lucy." Now we got a divorce and it's up to me. And she said, so I'm sitting there, and remember she had another one called The Lucy Show, or different incarnation. And she said, and the script was terrible. She said, "Oh my God, and Desi's not here to fix it. So she called lunch, and she said, I went back to my office, and I thought, I got to be strong.
Mm-hmm.
I got to be like Desi.
Mm-hmm.
I know. She went back, and she told them, she said, I told them in no uncertain terms, this is what, you got to fix this, and you got to fix that. And I minced no words. And she said, and kid, that's when they put the S on the end of my last name.
Lucille Bowles.
And she was great. She always sent me flowers on my birthday.
Wow.
And I got up one morning and she had died on my birthday.
Oh.
And I got flowers that afternoon. Happy birthday, kid.
Oh, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, this business is so full of rejection. And I read somewhere where you never took rejection personally.
No.
Can you talk about how you handled adversity in that business?
Well,
because kids today fall apart.
I can't remember what I was auditioning for.
Uh-huh.
It might have been a commercial or something. This was before I got on Gary's show and all of that.
Okay.
So I was just starting out. And it was kind of narrowed down to between me and another girl. I thought I had it, but I didn't. She got it.
Uh-huh.
I don't know where this came from, but I thought, it's her turn.
It's just, yeah.
It's not my turn. My turn will come. It's her turn. So when I get letters or calls from people who say, how do you handle it? Just say, okay, wasn't my turn yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was never, okay.
Yeah.
It was for her.
And that didn't come from your upbringing or anything.
Oh,
You just
No. My grandmother would have had her killed.
Oh my gosh.
Now, how did you handle being a mom during all of this fame?
We were on a school schedule.
Mm.
In other words, a lot of the crew from the Gary Moore show came out. So we were a well-oiled machine. Like on Mondays, I would take the kids to school.
Okay.
And then I'd go to work.
Okay.
And we would be finished in time on a Monday for me to come and pick the kids up.
It's a perfect job. So what was Carol Burnett, the mom, like? What was it like when Carol Burnett showed up in the pickup line? were you Carol Burnett in their lives, or were you?
I was mom.
Yeah,
I was mom.
How did you manage that balance? I mean,
it was difficult.
It
was difficult. And then Carrie, my darling Carrie, got into drugs as a teenager, and it took a lot. But it was 3 rehabs and family sessions.
Yeah.
And the last rehab we sent her to, she was so angry with me. I mean, and I said, I have to love her enough to let her hate me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we did. And she also was into singing and music and all of that. And the last rehab we sent her to, she had this wonderful doctor. He was young. And she was ranting. She told me this later. She said, I was ranting and raving. And I said, I want to be Janis Joplin. And he said, well, she's dead.
Yeah.
That's not funny, but that's funny.
I said, and she said, Mom, that really hit me.
Wow.
So she sobered up when she was 17. She became an actress on Fame.
She was on Fame.
On Fame. She had a regular role on Fame.
Wow.
I did 3 things with her. I was a guest on Fame twice. And then we did a television movie together.
How was that working with her?
She started writing. And she was in a movie called Tokyo Pop, which is now like a little cult film. And she was like 24, 25 and got sensational reviews.
Okay.
And Marlon Brando called her.
Wow.
He saw her in the movie. He said, I'd like to talk to you about a project. She turned him down.
Why?
I became Mama Rose. I went, are you crazy? Marlon Brando, what are you doing? She said, Mom, I did a movie. Now I want to write.
Okay.
I want to concentrate on my music. She wasn't after being famous,
right,
or anything. And then we wrote a Broadway show together, and it went to Broadway. Hal Prince directed it, and we were doing great. She was doing great, and then she got sick. Yeah. But boy, we went through it.
Yeah.
But you got her on the straight and narrow.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I love that. It's like you didn't need her to be happy with you.
Right.
You needed her to be well.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it's true. You have to love them enough to let them hate you.
That's right.
And that's hard.
That's the hardest part of parenting. Yeah. And I think it's a thing that people don't understand. Yeah. It's like when you say you want to be a mother, it's like, well, you better not want a friend.
Yeah. Well, I had no examples. I had no good examples.
Yeah. But now so many women have you as the example.
Oh.
Well, you've been paying it forward a lot. I mean, you've had a lot of angels on your shoulder,
Sure did.
but you have been an angel for a lot of people. Did you ever pay that $1,000?
Yes. 5 years to the day.
Wow.
You know, whatever you're focused on right now, work, family, big goals, there's never a perfect time to feel your best. There's just right now. AG1 has honestly been the easiest, most impactful habit I've added this year. Real sustainable health isn't about perfection. It's about consistency. And AG1 keeps it simple. Multivitamin, pre and probiotics, superfoods, antioxidants, all in one scoop. And AG1 is the opposite of complicated. One scoop, 8 ounces of water, about 20 seconds. I drink mine first thing in the morning, before coffee, before the phone. It's become this little micro habit that sets up the whole day. And the new next-gen formula has more vitamins and minerals than ever, clinically proven to help fill common nutrient gaps. I use this every single day, and you should too. They've got original, citrus, berry, and tropical. And I'm an original and citrus guy myself. AG1 has over 50,000 verified 5-star reviews and comes with a 90-day money-back guarantee. Go to drinkag1.com/IMO to get their best offer. For a limited time only, get a free AG1 duffel bag and a free AG1 welcome kit with your first subscription order. Only while supplies last. That's drinkag1.com/IMO, drinkag1.com/IMO.
So you're still at it.
Yeah, I'm very happy.
Yeah.
I had a great time recently doing Better Call Saul.
Oh, yeah.
I just love Bob Odenkirk. And of course,
how do you feel about working every day now? How's
I don't
that
want to work
schedule?
every day.
Yeah.
What's the schedule like? I mean, because Palm Royale, I fell in love with the first season. I've saved it up season 2 for our next travel.
It's off the wall.
Yeah.
Well, but I'm not on every day.
I know, but
I have it actually where I work 3 days a week.
Okay.
And no more than
still a
3
lot.
in a row.
Yeah, really. I
Just
mean,
5 days.
you know, that's where I'm trying to be now.
Just say that's what I want.
Yeah. Let's manifest it.
Yeah, exactly.
How does it feel being on the show?
Well, all of a sudden now, I'm 92 years old. I have new girlfriends.
Yeah.
When they called me a couple of years ago to do Palm Royale, I said, "Who's in it?" And Abe Sylvia, who's a creator, said, "Kristen Wiig, Allison Janney, Laura Dern, Rick." I said, "Stop. I'm in it. I don't care what you want me to do." He said, "Well, the first few episodes, you're in a coma." I said, "That's even better."
when I just started watching Palm Royale.
Oh my God, you do so much in a coma, though. Okay.
But this is what I wanted to because whenever they show you on there in a coma, I like start giggling. And I'm wondering, are you doing that to me, or is it just me doing it?
It was a good gig, I have to say. I get up at 5 in the morning,
and lay back down,
get dressed, go back, get undressed, get into pajamas, and go back to bed.
Right. And
but
your
you
lines,
weren't sleep, you weren't ever
a lot
sleep.
of lines.
Didn't have a lot of lines. No, I didn't sleep.
Yeah.
But sometimes there were a couple of scenes when Kristen was doing stuff and Allison, it was hard for me
not to laugh.
Not to laugh.
Yeah.
But now, like, we're buddies.
Yeah.
We're really good. And Allison and I, we wordle.
Oh, I
yeah.
wordle.
Yeah,
I love
so do we.
wordle
Yeah.
every day.
I do every day.
Mm-hmm.
I have to brag.
Please do.
Okay, yes.
Mostly in 2.
You can do all of them too. I get them.
Not all of them.
I get them done. I can solve all of them. But what are your starter
She's getting
letters?
them in 2.
We do
I
different.
know, it's good.
We do
That's
different every day.
good. Okay, so you pick
She's
the
like,
word.
I solve all of them.
No, I'll have Brian pick the word.
Okay.
And he'll say whatever, and then the letters come up. But
Yeah.
we don't do the same word every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we have, I think, the record of getting it in 1.
Uh-huh.
It's only an accident.
Right.
You know that.
Of course.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah. But we have gotten it 7 times in 1.
Well, then that's not an accident. It's more that manifestation stuff going on,
No,
Carol.
it was audio,
Oh, yeah.
audio,
Mhm.
bacon, clown, crown,
You remember.
stash, towel, and talon.
So this is my question.
Yeah.
How do you stay so sharp at 92?
Because I'm just sitting here. I can't remember what I did yesterday.
I can't either, but I remember. But I remember when I was 3.
Well, maybe this is the time to do our listener question.
Hi, Michelle and Craig. As a young woman starting her professional career in a traditionally male-dominated field, I have found it most intimidating to network and reach out to more established professionals. I sometimes get nervous that I am wasting someone's time, not making a good enough impression, or that I don't deserve to be in that space. I'm sure that you both have been in rooms where you were told you didn't belong. What advice do you have to overcoming that imposter syndrome feeling?
Have you ever felt imposter syndrome? I wouldn't think so.
Again, I was too stupid. I never. Again, I held I would look at the movies,
Mm-hmm.
and I would see strong women,
Mm.
and like when I said I'm going to interview Joel McRae,
Mm-hmm.
I got that from watching Rosalind Russell. So, you don't want to say get over it, but in a
Mhm.
way, don't think so much of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's I'm not good at giving advice.
I think you are.
It's like you're making yourself happen that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Think of somebody you admire who is a woman,
Mm-hmm.
and pretend you're that woman. Maybe
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
lots of times when I would do the show, and I would do the Tarzaniel,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
or I would do Charo, who was
Mhm.
my body, I knew what I was doing, but the body reacts in a different way. It doesn't know you're acting
Mm.
in a funny way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll do the Tarzan, but somehow your body reacts differently, and I don't know. Maybe, as I say, pretend you're somebody else.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it's much better today. It's not all better, but it's much better today.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she just got to. I can't say don't worry so much, because that's not good advice. I don't know what good advice would be.
Well, no, but I think that, and it's interesting that because the things that run through my head that allow me not to focus so hard on this feeling of how am I good enough? How am I showing up? Sort of giving my power to somebody else.
Right.
There is a generational component because I hear what you're saying would be the same thing that my mother would say. I mean, it's the same, which is interesting that women of an older generation who have faced much more, discrimination, have had to overcome hurdles. The society was set up in a totally different way, but that there is a practicality. It's almost like no one's going to fix your problems for you but you.
Yeah.
And so all of the work of feeling good enough never, ever really comes from the outside in, and if that's what you're waiting for, somebody to give you permission to feel good about yourself, it doesn't, confidence, acceptance, it doesn't work that way. It's not somebody else's responsibility to make you feel good. And nobody's really thinking about you like that, So
yeah, it's not coming from them.
Yeah, it's not coming from them. The work starts from inside, like in improv, like acting. Your brain is in charge. And if you wake up in the morning and say, I decide to have a good day, like I decide to feel good about yourself, that's the beginning. That's the manifestation. It starts from within. And your body will follow, and life will tend to follow. So my advice, yes, you could feel imposter syndrome, but I know that I was raised to believe that I was in charge of how I felt about myself.
Yeah.
In fact, we would get in trouble in our household
Wow.
if we showed up worried about what somebody else was thinking. And trouble
outside
was
of the
just
house.
that
outside
would
of
be,
the house.
Yeah, outside of the house.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd agree.
Our mom's saying was, you don't go outside of your home to be liked. Come home, we like you here. This is where love is. No one owes you that out in the world. No one owes you acceptance. I think we had the luxury of having that at home. And I think when you have that at home, you're starting with a foundation of, yeah, that person called me a name, they called me a jerk, but I know how the table that matters, how they feel about me. And I choose to believe what I hear from my mother and the people who love me.
Couldn't I have been in your family?
You could have been. Yeah, you
absolutely.
But Carol,
But you were.
Oh,
you were there every week.
So
no, but I mean, really,
you could have really.
You could have really been there, but we would have been watching you.
Right.
But let me just add a bit on what Mish was saying, because the validation part, I've never felt like I needed validation outside of our home, because Mom used to say this. She's like, if you prepare for whatever you want, then you've done your best. That's all you can ask of yourself.
Like you said, it wasn't your turn.
And I just wrote that down. To your point, not your turn then. If you did your best and didn't get it, it's not your turn.
Right.
Don't mope about it. Go to the next one. And it seems simplistic, but it's carried me through a lot of tough times when people have not viewed me as where I think I should be viewed. And I was like, well, that's tough. You're missing out. And it's and it's really helped. It's helped me in sports, but it's helped me in life more.
I mean, we came up in that kind of parenting. And I think the kind of overcorrection from the generation that felt that wasn't quite enough. I think we've gone to the other extreme.
Well, when I first had the kids, and they were old enough to understand what I was doing, what their father was doing, I don't know if you remember the actress Loretta Young.
Oh, yeah.
Very beautiful and perfect.
Yes.
I wanted to be perfect. They never saw me angry. They never saw me cry. I didn't, because I was raised, my grandmother, the mother would go at it like that. Great. Over money and liquor. I would sit in the corner and draw and go and zone out because they were angry a lot and yelling a lot. So I went too far the other way so that I was trying to be perfect for them. And so when they got angry or well, then we're not perfect.
Yeah.
So that was not a good thing for me to do. I wasn't, those first few years, I don't think I was human to them. I was, Mom. Mom's got a show. Mom's doing this. Mom's doing that. Even though I take them to her school, all of that. But I had that Loretta Young syndrome. That I call it. And it's wrong. It was wrong. I got out of it eventually, but I had to learn my way because I never had that example.
We're always trying to fix the thing that we think was broken in our childhood.
Yeah, and it's up to us.
But
I love what you said. It was just perfect. Perfect.
So, and as far as we're concerned, you're in our family.
I feel that way.
Carol,
Thank
you really, just sitting here and talking about that path. I mean, I don't think that, I know you must hear this all the time, but, we had a happy, beautiful family, right? But your talent, your gifts, the structure of your show, how you showed up in it, like Craig said, your humanity before the show, your honesty throughout your career. I mean, that kind of stuff has been as impactful to my development as my parents, right? Because that's the role modeling. You see a smart woman, because what is clear through this is that you've always been that woman. Smart, courageous, bold, and you just brought that to your show. And that came into our living rooms as part of an important experience of seeing what you could be.
You're going to make me cry. Oh, thank you. I'm so touched and moved.
You mean the world to us.
Thank
you. And thank you. You know what I want to do?
What?
I want to sing "It's So Nice
to have this time
we had this
together."
Time together.
I love it.
Just to have a laugh or sing a song.
Seems
we just get started, and before you know it, comes the time we have to say so long.
Oh,
good night,
all these youngsters
Carol.
have no idea what we're doing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I've got chills. This has been absolutely wonderful.
Oh, we love you. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for being in my life.
Back at you.